Hi, Bulldogs. As we continue our unit on revolutions, I want to take some time and talk about the Haitian Revolution. This is actually two videos. This is the first of two. So we're going to start with some background today. So first, it's important to know where is Haiti and where was this revolution? This revolution was on the colony of Saint Domingue, which is on the island of Hispaniola. Today, you would know this as Haiti and Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is the colony Santo Domingo, which also shared this island then. So this is a revolution between 1791 and 1804. So why is this significant? Why are we learning about it? This was, just like the American Revolution, one of the most significant challenges to European colonialism in the world at the time. It was also regarded as a milestone in the history of Africans in the Americas. And in fact, it's the only successful large-scale slave insurrection in history. There's been several successful ones, but this one was definitely the largest. So there's a lot of causes, and we can think social causes, political causes, and economic causes. In terms of economic causes, it's important to realize just how valuable Haiti was. They had an export-driven economy, and it really focused on agriculture and trade. By the second half of the 18th century, which is the mid to late 1700s, coffee and sugar were two of the world's most profitable and traded commodities. And they really centered here. Haiti produced over 40% of the world's sugar and over 60% of the world's coffee. So to meet the growing needs of this plantation economy, France brought in many slaves and expanded the number of slaves on this island tremendously. Thus, there became a social imbalance, and that fueled the revolution. This was a colonial society that had very rigid social pyramid, sort of like the French Revolution we just learned about, and it was a racist one.
Interruption, Tracy, and Beazle, please call extension 723. I'm sorry,
Nope.
4227.
That one.
Tracy and Beazle, please call extension 4227.
So your social position, similar to what we learned about in France, was based on your inherited position. You were born with it. It had nothing to do with personal merits. So on the top were the Blancs, or the whites, and they owned most of the property. Below them were the gens du couleur libre, which were the free people of color, both light-skinned and dark-skinned people who were free. They often had some property. They were often educated, but this system often blocked them from having many political offices. Then we have the bottom layer, and that consisted of slaves who were mostly from sub-Saharan Africa and their descendants. And also you have the Maroons. The Maroons were fugitive slaves at this time. It's important to know also just how harshly the slaves were treated at this time. They legally were allowed to use violence on the slaves. They had very poor living conditions, and they had a very high mortality rate, which meant that they had to constantly replenish the slave supply. By the end of the 1700s, the number of slaves in Haiti reached about 500,000, and it outnumbered the white colonists almost 10-1. So because of these conditions, there were a lot of conflicts, and you have these fugitive slaves known as Maroons. And they were runaways who often lived in literally swamps or forests. And by the end of the 1700s, they created these bands where they came together and they would initiate large-scale attacks to nearby plantations. This is an example of a leader of one of these Maroon groups, Francois Macandel, and he led revolts between 1751 and 1757, which showed that they had power in numbers. We also have to look at revolutions prior to the Haitian Revolution. We, of course, have the American Revolution, but more specifically, what we've just been learning about is the French Revolution. And if they just had this revolution based on rights and equality and freedoms, if this is your colony, this is your island, why do those people not have these rights that you're just fighting for. So the French Revolution had this deep effect on the philosophical understanding and the philosophical causes of this revolution. So remember, they had the Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, and so in 1789, a bunch of free people of color, including this one here, Julien Revolt, petitioned the French National Constituent Assembly for equal rights. So on May 15th of 1791, they responded with giving the gens de couleur libre the right to vote. This did not extend to the slaves. And the white colonists did not like this at all. They resisted this law and tried to prevent the free people of color from exercising their right to vote. So this led to many revolts from the slaves because, hey, why were we not allowed to vote? Or why are they not even letting them give them the right to vote like they're supposed to? So the first big revolt we have is the Revolt of 1791. So now that these plantation owners and whites are using violence to try to stop these small rebellions, that actually extended to inspire more rebellions, right, as they're getting treated harshly. So there were many successive and successful revolts, even ones that were failed, still sort of inspired more. So it was like ironic. They would use more violence to put down these small revolts, and then because of that violence, they would get, more revolts in response. Just added fuel to the fire, so to speak. So one night on August 14th, 1791, a slave rebellion broke out. There's a whole story if you want to look into it. There was a Maroon voodoo priest, and he had this congregation, and he was inspiring the people to revolt. And within a few days, white people of color, Maroons, and slaves first tried to take control of the northern part of the island. That's because that area had the smallest concentration of French troops, so it was very strategic. Over the next few days, the rebellion spread, and numerous plantations were burnt to the ground, and over 1,000 whites were killed. And it continued to spread. By September of 1791, the rebels seized the capital, Port-au-Prince, and other cities like Le Cap were completely burnt to the ground. So France had tried to restore order to the colony. So what they did was they granted amnesty to all of the free people of color, but they did not grant amnesty to the slaves. So the measure did not have its desired effect. And in fact, it led even more slaves to join the revolt. And by March, France decided to send 6,000 soldiers to the island. So what were the results of this? Well, first it exposed France's weaknesses to the whole world. And now Spain and Great Britain are getting involved. They realized that they had a chance to profit on this really valuable colony if they had some success here, and took advantage of France's precarious situation. Most of the white colonists allied with Great Britain, hoping that they would actually gain independence from France. And then the free people of color and slaves usually looked to Spain for both more political and civil rights. On February 1st of 1793, France declared war on Great Britain. Soon after that, Spain sends troops to Saint-Domingue to join the rebels. So now France is fearing a full-scale war, and their National Assembly passed an order. And this declared freedom for all of the slaves who would join the Republic's army. In August, the French authorities issued a general emancipation decree which abolished slavery, and it was confirmed by the French government on February 4th, 1794. So we're going to pick up with the next video on how did this work, did it not work out with this emancipation, and Toussaint Louverture, and how the revolution took a turn, and then what were the effects that continue to present challenges to Haiti today, and also what were the positive effects as well. All right, see you guys later, and let me know if you have any questions.